Hello everyone, this is Mr. Mola with the lesson on solving one-step equations. So this is the first lesson in many of when we're solving equations, and this is one-step equation. So that means at most you're going to do one step on these problems. Next lesson we'll get to is two-step equations, and you guessed it, we're going to do two steps. And then we'll get into multi-step, which means anything more than two, or there's a variable on each side, things like that. So our goal for solving any equation is to get the variable, remember variable means letter, alone on one side of the equal sign. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, we're going to try and get the variable by itself. And how do we do that? So this is the important part. So we do the opposite operation, or we call it the inverse operation, to the number on the same side of the variable. So let's go over what our opposites are here. So if I see an addition problem, the opposite of addition is subtraction. I see a subtraction problem, the opposite of subtraction is addition. I see a multiplication problem, that means I'm going to use division. And if I see a division problem, that means I'm going to use multiplication. So first thing we need to do is kind of establish what's going on in there, and then we can talk about what the next step is. So this first problem says u plus 25 equals 12. And when I do these, I like to kind of draw a line down my equal sign so I can kind of see there's a left side of the equation over here. There's a right side of the equation over here. So then I can kind of tell when I'm talking about left side, right side, or moving it over, that's what I'm talking about. So our goal is to get the variable by itself. Here's my variable, that u. So I'm going to do something to this plus 25 over here to get it by itself. And we're going to use our inverse operation. So the opposite of plussing 25. Well, the opposite of plussing 25 is subtracting 25. And we do that to both sides. We do it to the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. So it's important to think of it like this instead of some of you might think of it in your head, and I'll give you an example later of why we should think of it like this. So on the left side, I have a plus 25 and a minus 25. Those are just going to end up canceling to 0. So all I'm left with is that u. And then here, I have 12 minus 25, or negative 25 plus 12, however we want to think of it. And it's going to end up being a negative 13. So negative 13 plus 25 equals 12. Same thing here. I have 16 equals s minus a negative 5. So if you remember, if I have two minuses next to each other, that really just turns into a big plus problem. So same thing, I'm going to put my line down the equal sign. I have a left side of the problem. I have a right side of the problem here. So I have s plus 5 equals 16. So the opposite of plussing 5 is minusing 5. So I'm going to end up minusing 5 from both sides. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. Those cancel out. So I'm just left with s, which is what my goal is, to get the variable by itself. And then 16 minus 5 is 11. So 11 plus 5 equals 16. So we did it right. Here we got w minus 16 equals 3. Same thing, I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign here. I have a minus 16. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So this cancels. Plus 16 and minus 16 is 0. So I'm just left with my w. And then 16 plus 3 is 19. So w equals 19. Okay, here we have x plus 4 equals 6. So same thing. I'm going to use my line down the equal sign. I'm going to subtract 4 from each side. Subtract 4 from each side. So 4 minus 4 cancels. 6 minus 4 is 2. So this is probably one of those problems where some of you probably thought of in your head. 2 plus 4 is 6. Obviously, the answer is 2, Mr. Molo. And that's the kind of thinking you need to get away from. So we really need to get used to doing the opposite thinking. So if you said 2 plus 4 is 6, I'm going to warn you, this lesson you might be okay for. Future lessons, you're going to struggle. In your head, you should have been doing 6 minus 4 is 2. And so we'll have formulas or problems like this next week. Let's say x plus y equals z, solve for x. And believe it or not, this problem right here and this problem right here are exactly the same. It's the same one step to solve for x in both of those problems. Those of you that think of it as 2 plus 4 equals 6 are going to have a hard time with problems like x plus y equals z. Those of you that think of it as, 6 minus 4 is 2, x must equal 2, you're going to have an easier time. So it's really the same step. I want to solve for x, so there's a plus 4 here, so I'm going to subtract 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Same thing here. It's a plus y there. I want to get the x by itself. I'm going to subtract y from each side. And so I can't do z minus y because they're not the same. They're not like terms. So my answer is just going to be x equals z minus y. So they're really the same kind of question. You're subtracting 4 from this side. You're subtracting y in this problem. 6 minus 4 is 2. I can't subtract z minus y. So it's kind of the same, not kind of the same, it is the same problem, just with all variables instead of some numbers there. So it really helps to think of this as 6 minus 4 is 2 instead of, 2 plus 4 is 6. So try to start thinking of it like this. This is why I want you to show your work on this homework and not just do it in your head. So here, same thing. I have x minus 3 equals 5. So minusing 3, I'm going to add 3 to each side. 5 plus 3 is 8. So x equals 8. Here I have x minus 2 equals 7. So the opposite of minusing 2 is adding 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. Here I have 6 plus t equals 28. Let's rewrite it. So it's a positive 6, so I'm going to end up subtracting 6. So I have 28 minus 6 is 22. And so that would be my answer there. 6 plus 22 does equal 28. Here I have m minus 8 equals a negative 14. Draw my line down the equal sign. It is a minus 8, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So negative 14 plus 8 is a negative 6. Here we have another one with those minus minus, so p minus minus 13 turns into a p plus 13 equals negative 10. So if I subtract 13 from both sides, because it's a plus 13, I get p equals a negative 23. Okay, so that's it for adding and subtracting. Now we get into multiplying and dividing. So here we're going to throw a new vocab word at you. It's reciprocal. So it's kind of the opposite. So the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. Reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. And when you multiply two reciprocals, you always get 1. So we'll need these if we have anything as a fraction. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same thing as what we did with the adding and subtracting. You have a multiplying problem, you divide. You have a dividing problem, you multiply. So here, I have negative 8 equals j divided by 3. So it's j divided by 3. Well, the opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. Kind of the same thing. I'll draw my line down the equal sign. Well, here, now I have a 3 over 3, and those end up canceling. So 3 over 3 is 1, so these will cancel. 3 times negative 8 is a negative 24, so j equals negative 24. So again, one-step problem. So all what this day is about, you're solving these problems with one step. So it was divided by, I multiplied, they ended up canceling, and then 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Same thing here. I have 9 times y, so the opposite of timesing is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9. So 108 divided by 9 is 12. So y equals 12. Over here they canceled. 9 over 9 is 1, so I'm just left with y. 108 divided by 9 is 12. Okay, same thing here. Let's look at a couple of these. So n divided by negative 3. So the opposite of dividing by negative 3 is multiplying by negative 3. Again, the negative 3 and the negative 3 cancel out to a 1, so I'm just left with 1n, and I multiply by negative 3 on the other side. So negative 13 times 3 is negative 39. I don't want to deal with these decimals right now, so we're going to do this one right here. So same thing, m divided by negative 2. So opposite of dividing by negative 2 is timesing by negative 2. Timesing by negative 2. So now I have negative 8 times negative 2 is a positive 16. So my answer there would be positive 16. Let's actually look at this purple one since it's the only one that's multiplying. So here I have negative 6 times v. So the opposite of negative 6 times v is to divide both sides by negative 6. So then here I have 6 divided by 6 is 1. So I'm just left with my v. And then 4.8 divided by 6, if I put in my calculator, ends up being just 0.8. Okay, here's where we need to get into that reciprocal stuff. So I have 5, 6 times w. So if I have 5, 6 times w, the opposite of timesing by 5, 6 is dividing by 5, 6. So if I do that, those cancel. So 5, 6 times w. So I'm going to divide this side by 5/6. So I can just put that in my calculator. Make sure you have a calculator for this. So negative 20 divided by 5/6 ends up being negative 24. Okay? Or if I want to end up getting real fancy, if you remember, this opposite or the same thing as dividing by 5/6 is timesing by the reciprocal. So timesing by 6 over 5. So 20 times 6 is 120 divided by 5. 120 divided by 5 is still 24. So same thing as we get there. So either divide by 5/6 or multiply it by 6/5. Doesn't matter, you still get the same answer. Okay, kind of the same thing here. So negative 5/8 times y. So I'm going to divide by negative 5/8. Those cancel, 5 cancel, 8 cancel. I'm just left with my 1. And so I need to divide over here by 5/8. So let me put that in my calculator. So 5/8 divided by 3/16 ends up being 3 1/3. Okay, so it gets a little trickier when we throw some fractions in there. Okay, here we have Lynn puts 1/4 of her money she earns from Starbucks into a college fund. This year she added, did I say 1/3? Sorry, 1/4. This year she added $285 into her college education fund. Write and solve the equation to find how much money Lynn earned at Starbucks this summer. So she put in $285, but that was only 1/4 of her money. So to figure out how much she earned total, we have 1/4 times her earnings equals what she has at her college fund. So 1/4, or m over 4, equals 285. Well, the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So 285 times 4 is $1,140. So that means she made $1,140 at Starbucks, but put $285 in her account.